Hello everyone, welcome back to Procrastinate with Books, and as promised with you guys in 2023, this year we'll be starting an absolutely new series. So books to screen is a thing of past, and now that we are focusing on a new series, this focus would primarily be distributed around non-fiction books. Now, a lot of people in my near vicinity keep telling me that I really would love to read some books, especially non-fiction books, but I sadly don't have the time, or I start reading a book but I never end up finishing it. And this video series would particularly be catering to those kind of people who really are interested in reading books but sadly cannot find the time. And since this would be a spoiler kind of a version for all the books that I would be discussing, I think non-fiction books really are the best thing to go spoiler with a spoiler alert, because then you're not really spoiling any kind of stories, you're just sharing the best things in the book and the zest of it with you guys. So these videos would be focusing around books where you don't have the time to read, so I read it on behalf of you and share the whole end-to-end crux of the book in a single video. And with that long introduction done, let's dive into the first non-fiction book of the year, which is 50 More Ways to Calm and Less Stress. Now, before we get started, I would like to state that all the details that are mentioned in this book are solely for self-coping purposes of stress, and I am in no medical capacity to share certain instructions with you guys. So this is solely what I read in the book and sharing my point of views regarding those areas and vicinities where the author discusses the different approaches to reduce stress. And these may vary differently for different people. At certain point of time, you might be enjoying one thing to cope up with your stress, whereas at a different point in your life you would be inclined towards something entirely different, and that's totally fine. So just keep an open mind and watch the video ahead. Now, when you hear words like dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, oxytocin, these are primarily coming under the umbrella term of good hormones. So I would be using the term good hormones for them. And then there is cortisol and few other hormones which are basically also known as stress hormones. So we will be referring to them as stress in general, to keep the overall lingo of this video a bit more simplified so that everyone can understand it easily. Each method mentioned in the book primarily focuses upon awakening either one, two, or all of your senses together. And so basically, when we are actually trying to do a certain kind of activity, we are simply trying to awaken certain senses in our body, which are mainly five: your sense of vision, your sense of hearing, sense of touch, sense of taste, and sense of smell as well. So while I am talking about these things, just keep in mind that it is actually tapping in to one of your senses or many of your senses together to create that overall effect and actually induce the secretion of good hormones in your body. The first method that talks about is walking in the forest, where you actually go for long walks in serenity into the nature's bliss to actually hear to a casual tone of soft, subtle nature's music by the birds chirping, rustling of leaves, and a cool breeze that is flowing on your face is actually awakening different senses in your body. And it's told to help many people by reducing stress levels in the body, because they are primarily focusing on awakening the sense of smell, sound, and touch. Up next, the method is called gardening, which actually helps you reduce stress by many levels. Actually, an initial survey was conducted where different set of peoples were given 6 hours to work either on computer systems and in a closed ecosystem, and 6 hours for a set of people to go out in the field and get their hands dirty in the soil and actually do gardening, planting plants and all those things. And after 6 hours, though the people who were doing gardening had done hard labor in the sun, felt comparatively more happy to the people who were working closed indoors on their computer systems. And with that proven result, this actually showed that gardening could also be a method where you can implement to reduce your stress levels. Up next, we have writing morning pages, where you actually get up a little early from your pre-scheduled time where you need to perform the daily ritual tasks, and you take some time off from that schedule, get up a little early and write at least 3 pages every morning. And that could be absolutely anything: how you're feeling, what are the kinds of things that you need to accomplish for the day, what are the things that you left out yesterday, if there are any inner feelings that need to be addressed and you have not vented them out. You can write anything and everything. Initially, 3 pages would seem a really long task for you, but once you start doing it, you actually feel that it's barely anything, and you would simply be able to acknowledge the kind of feeling and thoughts that are going on in your minds onto written pages, and it's just another feeling to actually see them down in reality. Next approach is called move your body, where you actually physically move your body in form of dancing, exercising, or simply going on long walks. This has actually proven results where stresses are reduced if you go out for dancing classes, exercise regularly, which is said more often than implemented, that you need to have a good diet and exercise regularly to actually reduce down your stress levels. But simply moving your body in any form is actually really beneficial. The next approach would be called upon the umbrella term of drawing, which includes doodling, sketching, or any kind of actual drawing, whether it's an object, nature study, or something from your imaginary point of view. And those things, once implemented on actual paper, again gives beautiful result. It's not just an art form to actually look at and admire, but it's also conveying your thought process and helping you focus on certain strokes that you're trying to create, and has proven beneficial for many people as well. Another approach that works really good for some people is stitching or sewing or knitting. And these all are clubbed together, at least from my point of view. When you actually hold something in your hand and try to do something with it, it's actually coordinating with your brain systems, and the whole messaging system is quite on alert. And even when you're talking to people and still doing the same things, your brain wiring just works really beautifully in those areas. And we are actually giving your hands to do something other than, just keeping them engaged on phones or tablets or laptops for that matter. It's actually pretty regenerating for your whole body. Our next approach is flotation, which has proven beneficial results of actually reducing the cortisol level or the stress levels in your body. And because of flotation, we are actually secluded from everything around you, from the total environment in which you are living. You are absolutely floating into nothingness, and that in itself is another kind of therapy. Though I do recommend taking official diagnosis before actually going down through this path, but it's in itself is a pretty unique way of implementing the stress relief therapy for you. Our next approach is focusing around massages, and if you have ever heard about massages in general, you know what I'm talking about. It's pretty relaxing to actually go for a massage when you're absolutely tired with simply living your life or doing too many chores on a daily basis, or doing a lot of heavy lifting for that matter. Massages are a great way to actually relax your body muscles especially, and it's one of the most common methods that people use for relaxation and regeneration. Another approach that really works for people like me is cleaning and organization. And if this is your jam, you know what I'm talking about, especially when I'm really stressed or I need to take my mind off a lot of things that are actually going on in the present time, and just detach myself from it. I focus on cleaning everything around me or organizing things. That just gives me a level of calmness into my mind and body. I just feel really calm with it. And if cleaning and organization is your thing, I think you should give it a try, especially when you're feeling too stressful. Just start cleaning something or organizing things around you, and you will definitely feel a lot better. Our next approach is called gratitude letter writing, where you actually write letters of gratitude to people around you, and if they have done something that you're really grateful for, or it's time for you to actually acknowledge people and their efforts in your life, I think it's a great way to do it. Now, it's not something that a person would be comfortable practicing pretty regularly. At least I wouldn't be comfortable writing a lot of letters to different people, but once in a blue moon, especially when it's, let's say, Thanksgiving or some other time in life where you're actually showcasing your gratitude to people around you, I think this would be a wonderful strategy to implement at least once a month or something. Another great way to reduce your stress would be interacting with animals and building any kind of relationships with them, whether it's actually adopting a pet. But if pet is not something that you can actually implement in your life, or you cannot fully be dedicated towards that arena, I think visiting animals at different animal centers, animal farms, even zoos for that matter, actually help a lot of people. And just interacting with those animals on a general basis, you are not necessarily supposed to actually keep a bird in a cage in your house. You can actually feed them by simply placing different water and food holders outside in your balcony, and the nearby birds would just come chirping along in your balconies and have what they need, and that would be it. Just watching them eating that food and coming near in your vicinity actually helps a lot. Our next approach is focusing on leisure activities that could be indulging yourself in puzzle games, bookbinding sessions, or even doing some paper arts or paper crafts such as origami. Bookbinding in particular caught my eye because there are places where they actually organize workshops where you actually learn the overall art of bookbinding. And considering that I'm actually a book lover, I think this would be something that I would like to try one day if I saw it somewhere happening around me. Next approach is one of the most commonly talked about approaches, which is yoga. And though people do feel that you obviously need an instructor to at least start off with the journey of yoga, and then you can later on do certain asanas by yourself, I think all these asanas, or at least the breathing ones, can be done by yourself at home if you are educated in that direction already, or if you have been taught yoga at your school or some other place. I think doing simple asanas at home really help you reduce the cortisol levels as well. Another great way to reduce stress is tinkering. You do remember Tinkerbell, right? So, tinkering is basically doing stuff, disassembling and reassembling things in a physical form, especially if it's a machinery or a craft work that you're actually performing, trying to do something related to woodwork or metal. I think it would be a great way to engage your hands and visions together and actually take your mind off from the existential crisis of your world. Running is another method that many people actually use to not only reduce the level of stress but also increase the level of good hormone secretion in their body, because when you're actually performing any kind of physical activity, whether it's the move your body approach, running in this particular case, exercising in any other form, it also helps you secrete really good hormones in your body. Another approach is to connect with people around food, whether it's hanging out with people who actually love the kind of food you like to eat, or exploring new arenas in the food industry, and actually spending time with people simply enjoying food related activities, whether it's having dinner with your family together, going out on outings, visiting certain food fairs, and such kind of activities are something that you can do together. Another way that actually is commonly implemented along with this is the culinary therapy, which includes actually doing a lot of cooking on a day-to-day basis, or actually joining certain cooking class because you do enjoy a certain streamline of food industry. That could be bakery for people like me, and you can simply learn to do a certain stream of cooking simply for your own enjoyment purposes, and that in turn will also help you reduce stress. Another approach that I feel would fall under the same umbrella would be the tea and coffee ritual making. And in these rituals, people basically enjoy the overall task of making tea or coffee and then sipping it by themselves and enjoying the soulless around them. Solitude, basically. And most of the people who actually implement this strategy have spoken that it's not the end product that they enjoy more, where they sit in solitude and have a sip, but instead the overall process of making tea that actually relaxes their nerves. To explain this better to you guys, I would like to describe few steps which people have often mentioned that they enjoy a lot, especially in tea making. They actually pour, tea leaves in hot water, and then the fragrance or the aroma of the brewing tree actually hits their nose, which is a nostalgic feeling for many. For others, it's making ginger tea where they actually grind the ginger in the pestle mortar, and that is another thing that they enjoy doing while making tea. For the rest of them, it's simply actually pouring the tea in the cup and seeing the hot vapors actually rising from the steaming cup of tea, and that's something that they enjoy simply beyond actually consuming that in form of food or drink. Another great method to reduce stress is the candle gazing method, which in Hindi or Sanskrit is called Tratak Asan. And it's also a form of yoga where you actually lit a candle in a dim lit room and actually focus on its wick that's lighting up, and you simply gaze at it and blink as often as required. There are results that show it's also improving your concentration while in parallel reducing your stress levels as well. So, this is another area if you guys are open to try. Our next approach would be meditation, which is altogether a very huge separate area to explore on its own. But in general, meditation really helps you improve concentration and lets you live in the present while also being very mindful about the kind of things that are happening inside your body and outside your body too. Another approach is to go for a music therapy, and these days music therapy is also being used to treat a lot of different kind of illnesses, whether it's speech or sound related disorders in one's body, a certain kind of disabilities. It's focusing a lot in a lot of different areas, and stress is also amongst them. So if you do enjoy music, listening to something soothing or mood related would definitely be recommended for people. And if you are already a music lover, there's absolutely nothing better. The great area to try would be birding or bird gazing or bird watching for that matter, where you actually detach yourself from the surroundings and spend some time in the nature gazing at birds. This actually gives you the opportunity to actually be free of any kind of distractions in your real life and simply spend some time around birds, trying to identify them, going to different bird sanctuaries and looking after different birds. And though spotting a particular kind of a bird wouldn't be that easy at first, once you get started, there is nothing like it. Our next technique is specifically for people who are too tensed about the future or keep overthinking and keep going in the past, and their mind is never really in the present and they have a hard time doing so. This technique of hand on your heart is a beautiful way to reconnect with your present time. So I would like to actually demonstrate this to you live because I really enjoyed this out of all the techniques that have been mentioned. Firstly, acknowledge 5 things that you can see around you. For me, it's the phone that I can see right now, it's my laptop. I can see the laundry basket lying just over there. I can see the seating bench and I can see the floor. That would be four. The fifth would be the doormat that I can see lying over there. Next step, I would like to acknowledge 4 things that I can touch around me. I can touch my hair, the netty texture of my clothes, the grainy texture of the wooden flooring that's there over here, which you cannot see. I can also feel the cottonish, roughish texture that's there on the curtains over here. I think that would be four. The next step would be to acknowledge 3 things that I can actually hear. So I can obviously hear the traffic noise outside. And just now, the second noise that I could hear was a bike running on high speed. And if I pay close attention, I can also listen to the window slider that's moving a bit because of the air. Now, acknowledge 2 things that you can actually smell. It could be anything. So, one that I can closely smell or have a fragrance of is my own perfume that I just sprayed that's lingering in the room. Apart from that, it's pretty difficult. If I pay close attention, I can also smell the cleaning products with which the cleaning has been done on recently. At least those would count for the two. And lastly, acknowledge one thing that you can taste right now in your mouth. So I recently had an espresso, so there is a lingering taste of coffee in my mouth, and that's what I could taste. And this, my friends, is the hand on your heart 5 4 3 2 1 technique to stay in your present. Next approach is sound bath, which is another meditative practice where people actually lie down on a mattress or on simply floor in a closed space usually, or it's a very calm place if it's on the outdoors side, and someone would be using resonant music to actually calm your body. They would be creating resonant music using certain vessels, you know, that cold one mortar is there that actually creates different music, and there are similar instruments that I use to actually create such environment that resonates in your closed arena and actually helps you relax. The next approach that was discussed in the book was house planting, which involves either creating your own herb garden or planting different blossoming flowers that actually induce different fragrances into your home, or simply the essence of herbs in your daily cooking can also improve the mood and the overall vibe of the family home that's there. Another great approach is phototherapy or light therapy lamps that now are available on every other retailers, but not all the lights are eminent to actually induce the phototherapy effect. So make sure you actually note down what kind of segment of light are the lamps emitting that you're purchasing, especially for phototherapy, and you should make sure are they in the significant range that falls under phototherapy, or are they simply just dim lights sitting out there. Another technique to reduce stress would be slow reading. Now, in slow reading, you are actually trying to feel everything that's been written, and even take the feel of the pages, try to feel how the characters are feeling, and not just reading quickly through the story or having a glimpse fast read. In slow reading, you actually try to acknowledge and inculcate and replicate those feelings that your protagonist might be feeling, or any kind of book that you're actually reading. You go pretty slow with it, taking every feel and accountability of all the emotions that the characters are going through. Simply feeling through all those details is considered a slow reading practice, and it's also proven to show a lot of relaxing effects too. The next approach is color selection, which actually helps you select the appropriate colors reflecting the right kind of mood for you to set in, and actually making changes around the place where you're sitting. If it's a home, you can obviously make changes, but if it's a rented apartment, make sure to use the right kind of images in your home to actually inculcate that kind of mood from the color therapy that belongs to. If it's an office, try using mugs and sippers of the colors that actually suit you. That's one reason why pastel shades are really appealing to a lot of people, because they give a lot of sense of calm to many people out there. Our next approach focuses on inculcating yourself in different kind of social environments that actually emit peace, or at least a very calmful environment towards them. That includes visiting different kind of museums and art related exhibitions, or something that actually make you feel pretty calm. It's also a method for certain kind of people to release their stress hormones outside the body and just feel at peace. The next umbrella term would be coloring in general, which includes mandala art, where you actually fill in small portions or design small portions and then filling them with different kind of colors. And then there is also coloring by number, which is actually a pretty meditative kind of a practice. And then there's of course painting of different forms like watercolors, oil pastels, and all those sorts of things, which all fall under the coloring therapy, at least for me. And these are the different approaches that were actually mentioned in the book as well. Another approach that people usually prefer or end up doing a lot is photography, but it's actually intentional photography, and each photo actually translates into a different version for each person. It does not necessarily mean that clicking different pics of your food that's arriving as an Insta crazy person, but actually having random clicks throughout your life to have certain moments captured. A great example that the author shared in her book was related to a person trying to click a picture of a road where it was slightly cracking from the side, and that crack somehow felt pretty artistic to that person, and they clicked a picture of that particular section and framed it on their wall. Now that particular crack section actually translates very differently to all kinds of people. Each person who views it looks at it at a different light and angle, and because of that it's actually perceived as a piece of art too. The next approach is converting your decision making process to option of choice method, because on a daily basis humans take millions of decisions, and let's just be honest with ourselves, taking decisions is the most taxing process there is for a human being. And right from the smallest things of what to wear, or what to cook for breakfast today, or in what order to perform your task today, simply making those decisions actually gets us really tired. And for that very reason, the author actually suggests us to keep different options of choice ready and try to make things as much as possible in an autopilot method, so that you have lesser taxing decisions to make on a day-to-day basis. Another great technique would be to declutter and simplify your lifestyle in general. Now, apart from all the everlasting techniques that are mentioned all over the internet regarding declutter, one particular area that gets cluttered a lot is our closet. And for that very reason, I actually enjoyed the opposite hook hanger method. Here, at the start of the year, you actually hang all your clothes on the hangers facing the hook outside. And when you actually take one of them out to wear it, and then actually place them back after washing and everything, you actually place them inwards. So at the end of the year, once the cycle is performed and completed, all the hooks that are still facing outwards towards you would indicate the kind of clothes or materials that you have not utilized in the whole year. And I think 1 year to 1.5 year is a really good window for you to decide what you actually need for the whole year, whether it's seasonal changing clothes, whether it's something that you might have thought that you would get a little skinny one day and fit back right in. I think it's time to get rid of those clothes. Our next method would be a deconnecting method from internet and from the online world, because let's be honest, the e-world actually consumes a majority of our time, and that could possibly be the reason why you're feeling a little stressed, a little anxious, and not getting things worked on time. Now, many people have started using digital watches or simply are on a habit of seeing the time on their phone, just like me. Try getting an analog actual watch to inculcate the time and actually check what time it is, and then just deconnect once a month or once in a 6 months, whatever your body needs, from internet, and try seeing and working simply without the internet for a day and see how your body reacts and how much of task are you able to complete just in a single day. It will be astonishing. And now moving to the final way of de-stressing your life is to do nothing. You heard me absolutely right. Just like all the systems, softwares, everything needs a downtime for it to upgrade itself, we as humans also need that. So schedule yourself for a 1 hour white space, whether it's a weekly time, a monthly time, whatever your schedule needs and fits your lifestyle. Do that. Just schedule a 1 hour white space in your calendar. Just like all the other things have been aligned, you will be aligned to perform that white space selection where you absolutely do nothing at all. That was majority of the topics that were covered in the book. Now, one thing that I personally did feel, that there weren't exactly 50 different ways to de-stress your life. I would say a lot of them felt pretty similar, just like the coloring ones, the painting ones, the plant therapy and gardening is not very different, at least from my point of view. So I wouldn't exactly count them as 50 different ways, but since it's the title of the book, I'll keep that as a title of the video. But that's one bummer that I felt. But apart from that, I think the author had made sure that we don't have to go out and Google out there different ways to stress, because let's be honest, everything is available on the internet if you search it rightly and appropriately. But accumulating all those research, backing up with data and good examples are done pretty well in this book, and because of which I absolutely liked it. And if you're actually looking for the proofs, relational stats that actually prove that this particular therapy helps you de-stress the life in some form of another, then you may get a copy yourself and check it and verify for yourself as well. This was me detailing out everything in a detailed review for you guys with all the pointers that the book discusses, so that you can keep this video saved up and implement this at any point of your time. Prevention is always better than cure, and what my personal experience says, that at any point of time when you are actually very stressed, you won't really be going out there in the space and searching of different ways to de-stress your life. So it's always better to keep yourself educated and acknowledged on these facts and options that are available at your doorsteps. And then once you're actually feeling really low, really stressed, really anxious in your life, you might get a tick from your back and brain that you would like to try some of these things that you once upon a time saw on a video. And with that, I'll take your leave and catch up with you in our next video. Until then, keep your coffee strong and your TBRs long. Goodbye.